Okay, so you've brought us this YouTube transcript, Learn English with Podcast Conversation, Episode 1, English Podcast for Beginners. And it's from the Speak English Smartly channel. Well, it's pretty straightforward, right? English for beginners. But knowing you, there's got to be more to it. You wouldn't be asking for a deep dive unless there was some deeper layer to uncover.
You know it, there's always something more to discover, even in something that seems simple. And actually, that's what makes this transcript so interesting. We've got this English lesson, sure, but underneath, it's really a window into how humans communicate and how we learn.
Right. And what's great is we've got several different threads woven into this one conversation. We've got the emphasis on listening as a skill, but then we also have the speakers getting into things like city life versus village life, the pros and cons of getting a pet, even navigating a breakup. And then, yeah, of course, they give some specific tips on improving your English speaking.
It's a real mix, isn't it? And I think that's what makes it so relevant for our deep dive today. It's not just about learning English. It's about seeing how language plays a role in our choices, our relationships, and even how we deal with our emotions. It's like a microcosm of human experience packed into this one little transcript.
So let's get into it. Right off the bat, the video emphasizes the importance of listening to English conversation. They say it's crucial for improving your English overall, especially your listening, speaking, and comprehension. So for someone like you who's always striving to be well-informed, what does this tell us about learning in general?
It's a reminder that learning a language isn't just about memorizing vocabulary or grammar rules. It's about immersing yourself in how people actually use the language.
Right.
Because there's so many nuances that you just won't pick up from a textbook, Think about intonation, how the voice goes up and down. That conveys emotion, emphasis, or all those idioms and expressions that don't make sense if you just translate them literally. You need to hear the language in action to really get it.
And I noticed that they actually encourage the viewers to participate by answering a question in the comments. They ask whether people prefer village life or city life. Just a small thing, but it gets people thinking and engaging with the material.
Exactly. And it highlights how crucial active engagement is.
Yeah.
It's one thing to passively listen, but when you have to formulate your own response, you're forced to actively process the language and apply what you've learned. That's where the real learning happens.
Okay, so let's talk about that question of village versus city. That seems to be a pretty universal debate, right? And they lay out some pretty classic arguments for each side. Villages are seen as peaceful, closer to nature, with people being friendlier and more helpful. Maybe not as many fancy facilities, but that close-knit community feeling is strong.
Yeah, and on the other side, we have cities. Cities are all about opportunity, more jobs, more education options, more entertainment. Of course, they also tend to be more crowded and polluted. And you might feel more independent in a city, which can be good or bad. You might not have that same built-in support network that you find in a village.
But what I found interesting is that they don't say one is definitively better than the other. Instead, they say the best choice depends on your personality and lifestyle. Someone who values peace and quiet might thrive in a village, whereas someone who wants to be in the thick of things might prefer the city.
It really boils down to recognizing that there's no one-size-fits-all answer. The best environment is subjective and depends on your individual needs and priorities. Someone who thrives on the energy and constant change of a city might find a village stifling, while someone who values peace and deep community connections might find the city overwhelming. It all comes back to understanding yourself and what you need to flourish.
It's like they're encouraging self-reflection, which actually ties in nicely with the next topic they bring up, getting a pet. And again, we have different opinions. One speaker raises concerns about the responsibility involved, the time commitment, the possibility of allergies or other health issues, and of course, the inevitable mess a pet can make.
These are all valid points, and it's responsible to consider them carefully. Pet ownership is a big decision. It's not just about cute cuddles. You're taking on the responsibility for another creature's well-being. That includes feeding them, grooming them, taking them to the vet, and training them, not to mention cleaning up after them. And yeah, allergies are a real concern for a lot of people.
But then the other speaker chimes in with the benefits of pet ownership, the companionship, the stress relief, and especially with a dog, the extra exercise you get by walking them. It's almost like a classic debate between head and heart.
Right, and it underlines how personal this decision is. What are your priorities? Are you looking for companionship? Are you prepared for the commitment? What about your living situation? Is it suitable for a pet? And your health, do you have any allergies? They're essentially suggesting that you need to do your research and make an informed choice, not just jump into it because you see a cute puppy at the shelter.
Okay, now the conversation takes a bit of a turn. One speaker opens up about going through a breakup. Their partner cheated on them, and they're understandably feeling lost and heartbroken. And this might seem kind of out of place in an English lesson, but it's actually really insightful.
Totally. Because it shows how language is used to express our emotions and how we use it to seek support. Here, we see someone using language to articulate their pain and confusion. And what's powerful is that it happens in a simple, everyday conversation.
And what's also interesting is how the other speaker responds. They offer advice about taking time for themselves, focusing on hobbies, spending time with loved ones, and they say time heals all wounds, which is such a classic piece of advice, but it's often true.
It's a reminder that sometimes the best way to support someone isn't by offering solutions, but by just listening and acknowledging their feelings. And that's something that happens through language. It's how we connect, how we empathize, and how we help each other through tough times. And it shows how communication goes beyond just conveying information. It's about providing emotional support and guidance.
So we've talked about the importance of listening, the village versus city debate, the pros and cons of pet ownership, and even navigating a breakup. Now let's get into those concrete tips for improving your English speaking.
Okay, yeah. They start by recommending something that might seem basic, but is actually super effective speaking to yourself in English. It might feel a bit strange at first, like you're talking to thin air. But the beauty of it is there's no pressure of immediate response or judgment. It gives you a chance to practice putting sentences together, finding the right words, and getting comfortable with expressing yourself in English.
And then they talk about actively seeking out opportunities to have conversations in English, which makes sense, right? You need to practice using language in real-life situations. But it can be intimidating, especially when you're first starting out.
Of course. It's natural to feel a bit nervous when you're speaking a language you're not completely confident in. But think of it as a challenge. Every conversation is a chance to learn new words, practice your pronunciation, and gain confidence. It's like anything else. The more you do it, the easier it becomes. And they suggest something really interesting, recording yourself speaking English. Admittedly, it can feel a little weird hearing your own voice.
Right. It's like, is that really what I sound like?
But they say it can really help you identify areas for improvement. Like maybe you notice you're using certain filler words too much, or your pronunciation could use some work. It's all about self-awareness. And for you, someone who's constantly seeking ways to improve, this could be a game changer, definitely. Because sometimes we have an idea in our heads of how we sound that's quite different from how we actually sound to others. By listening to a recording, you get a more objective perspective. It's like having a coach who can pinpoint exactly what needs work. And they also emphasize the importance of developing a physical feel for the language, comparing it to exercising a muscle. It's a great analogy because speaking a new language does involve training the muscles in your mouth to move in new ways.
I like that. It's like giving your tongue a workout. And the more you practice, the stronger and more flexible those muscles become. And that leads to more natural, fluent speech.
Precisely. Recording yourself and then actively listening back helps you identify areas that need more exercise, so to speak. It's a form of targeted training that can really accelerate your progress.
And I love that they wrap it up with a call to action, like and subscribe, which is pretty standard for YouTubers. But it shows that they're serious about building a community and sharing their knowledge. It's about encouraging further engagement. So here we are. We started with a simple English lesson, and we ended up exploring ideas about where we choose to live, the responsibilities of pet ownership, the emotional complexities of a breakup, and some pretty powerful strategies for improving our speaking skills. And it all came from this one conversation between two people.
And that's the beauty of communication. It's woven into every aspect of our lives, from our everyday choices to our deepest emotions. And even in something as specific as learning English, we see how these different aspects of human experience come together.
Right. It's like even a basic conversation can reveal so much about who we are, what we value, and how we make sense of the world around us. And for someone who's dedicated to lifelong learning, that's a pretty powerful takeaway.
Absolutely. It reminds us that even the most seemingly mundane interactions can offer valuable lessons. We just need to be open to listening, observing, and reflecting on what we hear. And that, I think, is the essence of what makes a deep dive so enriching.
Totally. So as we wrap up, I want to leave you with something to think about. We've heard these different perspectives on village versus city life, the joys and challenges of pets, the pain of heartbreak, and the different approaches to language learning. What common threads do you see in how people weigh different options and navigate their experiences? What kind of balance do you strive for in your own life across all these different areas?
That's a great question. and it's something I'm going to be pondering myself. It's a reminder that learning isn't just about acquiring knowledge,
Yeah.
but also about understanding ourselves and how we fit into the world.
Absolutely. So keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep those deep dives going.
Couldn't have said it better myself.